Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and I am here today for the scrapbookingstore.com. I'm going to be using this kit that they sent me from Echo Park called New Day, and I pulled out this sketch from February of 2022 to document some photos from Epcot. Now, this layout is also a showcase of their National Scrapbook Day Challenge, which is Scrapbook Your Story. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But let's talk about the papers first. I pulled out some of the papers that I thought were going to work really well for these photos. I really love that green. And if you remember from my unboxing, I told you that I was definitely going to be using that. Now, it may look like I'm going to be using that floral paper there because it's kind of sitting there, but it doesn't make it. I do definitely pull out that plaid paper, and I really like this dark blue paper against the green and the plaid paper. The sketch itself calls for a large strip in the center, and I'm going to use the green piece of paper for that. Over to the left hand side, it calls for another strip of paper, which I'm going to use this dark blue paper with the pastel florals, and then I'm also going to add a strip, 1-inch strip of the plaid paper. So the green piece of paper is 12 inches, and I cut it down at the 3-inch mark, and the 3 inches are going to be on the left hand side. Then the plaid is cut down at 1 inch, and then that dark blue paper is cut down to 4 inches. Now, I didn't want to waste any of my white cardstock. I like to use that to mount my photos, and if it's going to be covered up completely, I just kind of measure it down, usually 1 inch wider than whatever the paper is. Use some washi tape on the back and adhere it back together so that it makes a full 12 inches. The sketch itself also called for another piece of pattern paper behind all of the photos, but I really didn't want to cover up that green paper, and it just sat kind of weird, so I just went with it. And I will tell you that this stacking of the paper, where I take one 12-inch piece of paper and layer it upon 2 pieces of the double page layout, and then having some other pattern paper on either the left or right, depending on which side has the larger paper, is something that I do quite a bit. And those are the sketches that I tend to gravitate towards. I decided to go ahead and place my photos down where I thought that they would work for this sketch. I will tell you that I did plan out this sketch. It does go a little bit easier if you really figure out where your photos are going to be and cut them down to that size, so that when you are sitting down to scrapbook, it goes pretty quickly. And I have my scrapbooking spreadsheet that I use linked below. So if you want to see how I plan out my photos and my layouts, definitely check out that template below. I also have a video that I will link below where you can go and get all of the details on how I organize my photos, my sketches, and use that spreadsheet. I decided that I wanted to mount the 3 butterfly photos on a piece of white cardstock because they were kind of getting lost on that green paper, and the sketch does call for those center photos to be mounted. Now, my photos are a little bit larger than what the sketch calls for. My photos are actually 3 by 3. I made them smaller by using the Project Life app to make them 3 by 4, and then just cut them down to a 3 by 3. That's usually how I do my photos, in a 3 by 3 size, using the Project Life to make them 3 by 4 and then cutting them down. These photos are from last year's Epcot Flower and Garden Festival, and it's specifically for the Blossoms of Fragrance. I became a Scentsy consultant 2 years ago, and I know that a lot of people think that Scentsy is an MLM, and a lot of people call the Scentsy people or crazy salespeople. I'm not that type of person. I really started selling Scentsy because they have a licensed with Disney. The very first warmer that I got was a Villains warmer, and then there was a Haunted Mansion warmer, and then an Up warmer. And then when the 50th anniversary Castle warmer came out, that's what sold me. And I was like, I'm obviously going to be continually buying these warmers, so why not, get some commission on my sales itself. I have a small little group of people that buy from me. I'm not the crazy Scentsy person who's posting all the time and trying to get people to buy. Really, I'm just trying to get a little bit money back on my own purchases. And there are several people who do purchase from me who are also Disney fanatics like I am, so they enjoy purchasing the warmers as well. Since Scentsy has a license with Disney, there are a couple things that they are featured at inside the parks. That tells you another thing about Scentsy. Disney just doesn't partner with just anyone. So the fact that there is a Scentsy section inside of Epcot, it's pretty awesome. So last year, I was super excited to obviously go to Flower and Garden. I go every year for the food and all of the different events. But when the Blossoms of Fragrance was there, I knew that I had to go to Epcot and spend some time in this section. So the butterfly topiaries are gorgeous. And then over on the far right-hand side of the layout, there were 6 fragrances that were featured at the Blossoms of Fragrance at Epcot. And so I took a picture of each one of the signs. And if you look closely at the photos, there are little holes in the bottom section. They actually have the scent itself coming out of the sign. That's how much detail Disney has. And it just is amazing. So you walk into this section, you have the beautiful topiaries as well as the other plants that are there. And you have these 6 fragrances that you can bend down and smell. And it's just amazing. I love working with Scentsy and having that experience at Disney World. So the photos on the right hand side are of myself just kind of squatting down in front of the Blossoms of Fragrance sign. And then right next to it is a sign that says, of all 5 senses, scent is the most strongly connected to memory. A note of lilac, a hint of citrus. Any one fragrance has the power to invoke vivid recollections with staggering clarity. And that is absolutely true. There have been several Scentsy bars and other fragrances that have come about that have triggered memories from my childhood. And I love being able to experience that with my small group of people that I have in my Facebook group. So I do have a Facebook group. If you need a Scentsy consultant, I will absolutely sell you Scentsy, but I only post in that group. So the people who are inside that group know that I'm going to be posting all about Scentsy, all the new stuff, and I don't overwhelm my main feed on Facebook with all my Scentsy stuff. If there's ever any type of Disney stuff coming out, you know that I'm going to flood my Scentsy group with that, because I definitely want to encourage anyone to have that connection between Scentsy and Disney. They just announced a new Smell-a-Fence on Parade, which I'm super excited about. I can't wait to get to Magic Kingdom and experience that section of the park where they have brought in elephants and there's different fragrances throughout the section of the circus. I've done a lot of talking about this layout. The reason that I did that was because it leads into the scrapbookingstore.com's National Scrapbook Day Challenge, which is Scrap Your Story Challenge. And I felt like this was a perfect layout to scrap my story. This section of Epcot is a part of my life. Scentsy is a part of my life. And telling this story of being a Scentsy consultant and not being the crazy Scentsy consultant, but being in love with Scentsy and their connection to Disney just really goes into that storytelling feature. There is a contest that you can enter over on scrapbookingstore.com's Facebook group and Instagram. I will link them below. You can join in on this challenge and scrapbook your story. Entering into the challenge, there is going to be obviously some judging done. The judging is based on creativity, storytelling, the design, and the use of scrapbooking elements. And they are going to choose one lucky winner to win a prize. That prize is going to include a scrapbooking bundle, a 3-month subscription to the scrapbookingstore.com's scrapbook kits, and you'll be featured on their social media. They're also going to do a random giveaway prize, which will be a small prize just for participating. So it's absolutely worth jumping in and joining in on this National Scrapbooking Day Challenge. I know that there are a lot of challenges out there for National Scrapbook Day, but I hope that you take this challenge and scrapbook your story. I mean, honestly, that's why we do it, right? We scrapbook the stories that are in our lives, and getting down the layouts that are about us is just as important as getting down the layouts about everyone else in our family. We need a presence in our scrapbooking just like everyone else does. And this challenge, I think, is an amazing Scrapbook Day challenge, because sometimes we forget that we are the person who's always taking the photos. We are not always in the photos, and sometimes our stories aren't being told. We're telling the stories of other people in our lives, which is perfectly fine. But every once in a while, we need to get our own story on the pages as well. I spoke a lot about the story behind this layout, and I've kind of neglected the layout itself. So let me get you caught up. I decided to cut down the 2x2 photos, and then I did mount them up on white cardstock. The sketch only calls for a row of 3 photos over on the far right, but I felt like the 6 photos worked really well, and adding the second row did not change the design that much. I also added a white scallop circle that I used my punch to punch out. I think it's 3 inches. And then I had this 2x2 square from the collection that says Simply Beautiful with a little rainbow on it. And then I also pulled out some jute twine that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. It's probably the best investment because it's super cheap. Obviously it's $1.25, and that roll has lasted me a very long time. I used the pink paisley gold letters to spell out the word Epcot, and I thought that those letters were self-adhesive. They are not, so I had to use my glue press to put those down. And then I used my Simple Stories color vibe to spell out the word flower and garden, and that is up there in the upper left-hand corner. In that little section as well, I added a camera sticker and a little tag that I ended up cutting out just the top piece so that I could have a little bit of wood grain sticking up there. I decided to add a chipboard rainbow up to the top right next to the title. For the right hand side, I did add one of those little flower buckets. I think I told you guys in the unboxing that there was a paper that had a full sheet of that. Definitely not my jam, but I can handle one little flower bucket. And I put that right next to the card that says Simply Beautiful. And then I really liked this hat, but it kind of didn't go. So I decided to try out a sun as well as a flower, but I decided just to go with the hat. Even though it doesn't really kind of go, I really like the wood grain. I did use some liquid adhesive on the back of my fun foam. I have that card there that says, "Take time to dance among the wildflowers." And I thought that that was perfect for this section of Epcot because I definitely wanted to dance with all of those fragrance hanging around. I did all the layouts for this kit and then decided to do the journaling. So you'll see me here cutting out all of the journaling and then using my phone to line up the journaling because I had put a big pile of the word strips over on the far right and needed my phone to make sure that my journaling was in the correct order. So the journaling for this one just says, "I stopped by Blossoms of Fragrance presented by Scentsy to immerse myself in lush topiaries, vibrant flowers, and intoxicating scents. It was truly a magical experience." So just a little bit of detail on that section here. And I've actually journaled on the back of the layout. There's a lot of personal stuff that I want to talk about in regards to the story behind Scentsy, and sometimes I don't want those stories to be known to everyone. So that's a way for you to put in your journaling, especially those stories that are very personal to you. For me, about joining Scentsy and being a Scentsy consultant, it's a really personal story, and I want that story written down, but I don't want it to be every single person who looks through my albums be able to see that story. Somebody who pulls it out, they may know that I have stories behind it. I do it actually quite frequently. I don't know that I've talked about it on my channel a lot, but I do put in very much details, almost like a personal journal, on the backs of my layouts as well. So sometimes you can do that where you're putting in those stories, but not for everybody to see. All right, so here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope that you guys are going over to the scrapbookingstore.com to enter into their National Scrapbook Day Challenge, which is Scrapbook Your Story. I will have all of the details listed below, and you are more than welcome to join in that challenge. I would love for somebody from my channel to win that amazing prize, a scrapbooking bundle 3-month subscription to the scrapbook kits over at scrapbookingstore.com, as well as being featured on their social media. So I hope that you take time to scrapbook your story and enter into the challenge over at the scrapbookingstore.com. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.